It's another beautiful Saturday, and there's not many places where it feels more like fall than Knoxville, Tennessee. Right there on Rocky Top. A wonderful setting for the Tide and the Vols coming up this evening. We're previewing it all right now on CTKO.
Crimson Tide Kickoff, presented by Alpha Insurance.
This was the scene yesterday for the fourth-ranked football team in the country, boarding the buses over at the Mal Moore Athletic Complex for the short trip over to the Tuscaloosa Airport, then a plane ride north. And look at Lane Kiffin. He seemed like he was in no hurry initially. He barely got there on time, but ran inside, got a shower, got out on the bus, and yes, he did make it to Knoxville, Tennessee, where he is public enemy number one. And with that, we say welcome in, everybody, to Crimson Tide Kickoff, brought to you by Alpha Insurance. I'm in Tuscaloosa, and it doesn't really feel that much like fall here. It's a little bit warm, but when Alabama and Tennessee meet on the gridiron, it is fall, and that really is the way that it gets kicked off. Let me be the first to say welcome to fall. The Tide and the Vols are set to kick off tonight at 6:30 on ESPN2, and we've got a lot to cover here on the show today. Here's a look. Jen Chapman is live in Knoxville. She'll have reports from Neyland Stadium. We'll hear from her in just a couple of minutes. Special guest, we've got some good ones. Ryan Fowler from Tide 99.1 will join us, as does Gene Jelks, a controversial figure in Tide history, but a man who's turned his life around. He'll talk about it. Also, the I Hate Tennessee guy. You've probably seen the viral video. We'll talk to Irvin Carney. And milliseconds goes NASCAR this week.
For the latest on the Crimson Tide, you don't need the newspaper. You need Bama headlines.
And we start, as always, with Bama headlines. Injuries a concern today for both teams. For Alabama, the offensive line, although Tide center Ryan Kelly does return from a 2-week absence. He'll be back at center today. Austin Shepard is expected to play at right tackle after injuring himself against Texas A&M, so the offensive line will be worth watching today. Getting a little windy here in Tuscaloosa. Tennessee also with a big injury heading into the game. Senior quarterback Justin Worley injured his shoulder against Ole Miss. He is not expected to play, although they say it'll be a game-time decision. Instead, the Vols are expected to go with a 2-quarterback system. Nathan Peterman and Josh Dobbs, who the UT staff wanted to redshirt this season, but may not be able to. And that sets up the game. Let's now set up the show a little bit for you by going around the horn to our CTKO crew for today. Jen Chapman is standing by in Knoxville, and Peter Crank is in the studio. First, we head up to Tennessee. Jen?
So much tradition and history to this rivalry. The 97th meeting between the two teams. Alabama has taken the last 7, but as Nick Saban pointed out earlier this week, this is a much improved Tennessee squad under Butch Jones. They've lost 2 games this year that were close ones, Florida and Georgia, and have played 3 top-ranked opponents. So Saban says the team is not taking this lightly.
I think they played really well this year. I made the statement before, they lose by 3 to Georgia and they lose by 1 point to Florida, or they're a 5-2 team, and everybody looks at them in a completely different light. So we have a tremendous amount of respect for Butch and the job that he's doing and their team.
Tailgating just getting started here in Knoxville. We'll hear from fans who've been a part of the rivalry for a long time when we come back.
Thank you, Jen. Good to have you there in Knoxville. Now we'll head a little closer to home. Peter Crank is standing by in the WVUA studios to give us a first look at our game day forecast. Peter?
Yes, that's right. We're looking at lots of sunshine. You can see that there with Jen, as well as here in Tuscaloosa. Full sunshine pretty much across the entire southeast. Obviously, there's the football up there in Knoxville, Tennessee for the game this evening. Now, here in central Alabama, we are seeing mild temperatures out there right now. 68 here in Tuscaloosa, 68 also up in Birmingham. A little bit cooler up in Gadsden at 64, but we are on our way into the upper 70s, approaching that 80-degree mark this afternoon under mostly sunny skies for us here in Tuscaloosa, as well as up in Knoxville as well. Now down towards Auburn, we're going to see their game starting at 6:30 as well this evening. Full sunshine there, clear skies overnight tonight. Temperatures cooling down into the mid-50s by the end of that football game. And then, of course, as we head up to Knoxville at Neyland Stadium, right there on the Tennessee River, 63 degrees at kickoff, about 6:30 p.m. Mostly clear, pleasant and cool conditions across the area for really the entire southeast tonight. And that just means great football weather. If you're up there, or if you're at Auburn, or if you're just here enjoying the weather, it's just a great day to enjoy that and watch lots and lots of football. Gary?
Thank you so much, Peter. Much more is coming your way on CTKO. Later, we'll have a NASCAR edition of Milliseconds. You don't want to miss that. Gene Jelks will join us in about 30 minutes. But when we come back, Ryan Fowler of Tide 99.1 in Tuscaloosa will join us. He'll help break down the Tide and the Vols, and we'll ask him, can the Tide maintain its level of play from a week ago? We'll see if the road will be kind to Bama tonight. We'll also get into the A.J. McCarron situation. CTKO rolls on live from Tuscaloosa and Knoxville. A beautiful setting for college football there on the Tennessee River. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Now, this week's Tailgaters of the Game, brought to you by Krispy Kreme Donuts.
All right, guys. Yeah, we're here with Tony. Obviously, he's a big volunteer fan. Thank you for joining us today, Tony. Yeah. All right, so tell me about this awesome bus that is decked out in orange and white.
Okay, first thing, got to call in Orangelets. We established it about a year ago when we started bringing our family down. Our wives and kids are still back at the hotel hanging out doing their thing, but it just gives us a way to come down, enjoy the Vols games, have a place to hang out, whether it's cold or hot. Got our TV inside, everything really you need to have a really good tailgate. Yeah,
and I noticed you guys got a lot of little compartments right here. You got everything you need for the Saturday. Do you think this is probably the most unique tailgating aspect you've probably seen in all of Knoxville?
We think it is. You know, we really enjoy it. The thing, when we started out, we started in a Suburban. We had to pack and unpack all the time. This is really just our tailgate vehicle. We can throw everything in the side. We got everything we need inside to do our thing, and we get home, we can park it, leave it. Anytime we're ready to roll, it's ready to go with us.
Yeah, it seems pretty convenient. It seems really, really great plan you got over here. I also want to ask you about Lane Kiffin's return. A little messy when he left, but he's coming back. How do you expect them to usher him in today?
Well, I think it'll be mixed greetings. You know, for me, I understand his move when he left. You know, anybody wants to go back to the dream job, those things are going to happen. I never blamed him. Now, I may be the minority at sometimes on that, but it'll be interesting. 100,000 when he walks in. I can't wait to see it.
All right, and just quick, your prediction for the tonight's game.
Well, Vols are going to shock the world tonight. You know, I think Butch Jones is doing a great job. He's got his kids buying in every week. We got our backs to the wall, and a lot of times that's when we play our best. So taking Vols 27-24, shock the world, come back and hang out at the Orangelets.
Back to you guys.
Thank you, Lee. Good piece right there. And we're joined now by a special guest, Ryan Fowler. You know him from his show, The Game, every weekday evening on Tide 99.1 from 6 to 9 p.m. Ryan, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gary.
Hey, you got to love fans, don't you? I mean, that guy was a good fan. I mean, but you got to believe your team's got a chance.
Sure, you need to, and I think it's very important for the rivalry because you want Tennessee at some point to snap this streak where the significance of this rivalry comes back.
No, you don't. Now you're saying
not tonight, though. Not tonight, but in the future. You at least want Tennessee to win. I mean, you go back to the 11 streak back at ended in 1982 with Johnny Majors. Maybe kept that rivalry going as where we know it today.
No, this is a streaky series. Let's don't forget, as much as Alabama's dominated going back to that 11-game streak, once Tennessee broke it, they won 4 in a row. Then Alabama went on a streak of 7 in a row. Then Tennessee actually has had a 7-game winning streak against Alabama, which is the longest anybody's had against a Tide. And right now, Saban is 7-0 against the Vols since he's been in Tuscaloosa. Let's start, though, by talking about what happened last week. And, you know, I had said on Tider Insider TV that I thought Alabama had a good football team. I thought they could overcome their mistakes and have a good year. But I didn't think they could play clean football. Not 6 weeks in, they had made a lot of mistakes, penalties, turnovers. Then all of a sudden last week, no penalties, no turnovers. Really as close to a perfect game as you can play. Were you as surprised by that as I was? Not by them winning the game, but the way that they won.
I was absolutely shocked. The previous 3 days prior to that game, I went on the air and I said, guys, you need to go back to Nick Saban's expectations and to really be realistic about winning a national title. Can this team really win a national title? I said no. I didn't think it could. But coming out of the Texas A&M game. Now you almost change that, because if they're able to get that momentum, able to get that confidence, that Texas A&M win gives them a lot. Let's see if they can take that momentum and capitalize that on the road. That'll be the challenge.
Yeah, that is the challenge, because, I mean, let's be honest. Inside the friendly confines of Bryant-Denny Stadium, this is the most impressive football team in the country. If you look at the Tuscaloosa games only. Yeah. I mean, they have been dominant. 2 shutouts, blew out Florida. Let's be honest, that probably would have been a shutout without the turnovers. Florida wasn't going to drive the ball 80 yards against that defense that day. But in Atlanta, in the first game of the year, they were okay. But then in Oxford and Fayetteville, some struggles. So, as you said, can they take this same formula, not just the game plan, but in terms of their attitude, their enthusiasm, and play like that in Knoxville tonight?
And I think it goes back, going into this season, Phil Steele put an experience ranking out there. This is 107th out of 128 teams ranked in inexperience.
Wow.
No experience. So this team right now, you've got redshirt freshmen that are now becoming sophomores. Sophomores are becoming juniors. The more you get experience, the more you're going to play with confidence. And I think that's where this team is right now. But a big test tonight inside Neyland Stadium.
Yeah, I think Tennessee is going to have a lot of emotion. It is a rivalry. You know, they are what they are. Their team is struggling in the conference, but so was Arkansas, and they gave Alabama fits. Tennessee on defense, they're pretty good, man. I mean, they just don't have the offensive punch to get them over the hump. But I think this defense will keep them in the game. Quarterback situation, even if Worley does play, it's a mess. The offensive line, not very good to begin with, and they're banged up. So I don't think they've got enough offense. But I think their defense could keep it interesting for a while.
It could, but the defense is probably the worst enemy is their offense, because the 3 and outs that are going to happen with that offensive line, creating a lot of pressure, either quarterback, whoever plays. Defensively, you expect A.J. Johnson to continue the success that he's got, but watch out for Alabama on the offensive side of the football, because going back to Texas A&M, it seemed like Lane Kiffin and Nick Saban really wanted to put a heavy emphasis, jumbo package, tight end, of running the football. That's an Alabama football tactic. It's a tradition. I look for them to continue to do that tonight.
All right, final minute, Ryan. I mentioned you're very well known in town with your show, The Game, and you've really gotten a lot of recognition the last couple of weeks.
Negative and positive. Negative.
Yeah, both ways. A.J. McCarron, a regular guest on your show, came on and you know, I don't know if I want to use the word criticism, because I don't think that's how he meant it, but he said the team lacked leadership, and it really stirred up kind of a hornet's nest.
He did, and I thought some of that was taken a little bit out. He was really talking about vocal leaders, and him and I had a conversation a couple of minutes prior to that, and he said he needed more of that, vocal leaders. Whether you disagree or agree with A.J. McCarron's comments, I think they were absolutely dead on, and I think the team has responded because of that. I mean, you could see a different vocal leader on the sidelines.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, folks can hear him again this coming week, right?
Absolutely. He's featured weekly here in Tuscaloosa on my show, The Game, starting at 6 o'clock, and I appreciate folks listening. Thank you so much.
All right, Ryan, thanks for joining us. Much more coming up on CTKO, including this.
And coming up next on Crimson Tide Kickoff, we go from the garage to the gridiron. NASCAR drivers who are also big-time college football fans. That's coming up after the break.
CTKO continues live from the banks of the Tennessee River in Knoxville, Tennessee, and, of course, right here on the University of Alabama campus in Tuscaloosa. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, you know, Roger Schultz, the former Alabama center, once said in the late 80s and early 90s that Alabama should have to pay property tax in Tennessee because they own it. Well, it's kind of gotten to be that way again here in the time Nick Saban's been at Alabama. In the 3 games in Knoxville, Alabama under Nick Saban has absolutely blown out the Vols. In fact, the Tide has a winning record at Neyland Stadium. 21 wins, 18 losses, 1 tie in series history. So Alabama feels pretty comfortable there on the banks of the Tennessee River. Still to come on the program, Gene Jelks will join us live here in Tuscaloosa. But right now, if there's a second favorite sport to college football in Alabama, for a lot of people, it's NASCAR. In this week's Milliseconds, B.J. Milliken takes us to Talladega to mix up a little football and a racing cocktail.
Talladega today to see if NASCAR drivers are as competitive on Saturday as they are on Sunday. A lot of them big-time college football fans, so let's go check it out. Here with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Ricky, I hear you're a big Ole Miss fan, is that right?
Yeah, it's I was wearing my Ole Miss hat the other day. We went to a Sam's Club and wasn't sure they were gonna let me in.
Here with Austin Dillon, driver of the number 3 Dow Chevrolet. Austin, you're a Tennessee fan and a little bit of a South Carolina fan. How do you work that out?
I enjoy watching college football. It does bring fun to our Saturday. Saturday's usually the day I get to watch football because Sunday we're racing. I'm kind of a South Carolina fan. It was the first SEC football game I ever went to.
Here with Larry McReynolds, football and racing. On the surface, doesn't have a lot in common, right? But are there things that those two sports have in common, you think?
Well, I think any sport, it's about the people. I always reference what I did a lot like what a head football coach when I was a crew chief. Surrounding myself with good people, that's the thing I work the hardest at. And I look at people like Nick Saban, who is absolutely a hero of mine. I look at him and I think that's what he does a good job at, is surrounding himself with good people.
Here with Marla and Tony, big NASCAR fans obviously, but also a big Alabama fans. How do you decide to get dressed up in the Bama stuff today?
Well, I'm just supporting the big Roll Tide and Talladega racing too. It's both my favorites, so I said I'd do it all in one day.
They go hand in hand, don't they?
That's right.
Here with Bubba Wallace Jr. Bubba, a big college football fan. How'd you get into college football?
Well, my mom went to University of Tennessee, so University of Tennessee blood has been in me since the day I was born. So, big UT fan. This isn't going to play over real well in Tuscaloosa, but it'll be okay.
If you could choose one or the other, you could choose Daytona 500 winner or Tennessee beats Alabama. Which one are you going?
Daytona 500 winner, man. That sticks with you forever. Usually, Alabama, Tennessee, they play each other every year, so there's a shot for that. I'd take that win.
Daytona 500 win or Tennessee beats Alabama?
Oh, I have to go with Daytona 500 win. That's where the heart is for sure. But one day, I'll say one day for sure, it's going to happen.
It's been a while. 2006, I think, was the last time.
Bringing up the stats. All right, here we go.
Who would you compare to Nick Saban from NASCAR?
Probably Chad Knaus.
I'd have to say Chad Knaus. Chad Knaus is pretty spot on.
Maybe Chad Knaus, just really, I'm going to get you.
Chad enjoys the wins, but he demands perfection.
So would he be, Nick Saban, be a good crew chief in NASCAR, do you think?
Absolutely. What I admire about Nick is he obviously enjoys winning, but even when he wins a football game, he's looking at what they could have done better, and that's the way I did my 18 years as a crew chief.
Is Danica a big college football fan?
She is now. She's got Coach sent her a lot of Ole Miss gear, so she's decked out, ready to go.
So she's got the hottie-toddy down, right?
She does.
Now, if you were a football player, what position do you think you'd like to play?
Oh, I played football before I started racing. Before basketball, I was like a nose guard. I was.
Wait, whoa, time out. A nose guard?
Yeah, me. My size, a nose guard.
Is this 8-man football? And we wanted to talk to Dale Jr. because he's a big South Carolina fan, but they lost 3 games already this year, so he's hiding out in there. Come on out, Dale. Talk to us.
Dale State, go Dogs!
Roll Tide!
Roll Tide. Roll Tide all the way.
Thank you, BJ. Larry Mack loves him some Alabama. Well, after an offensive explosion a week ago, the big question today is, can the Tide offense take its efficiency on the road? In 2 road games so far, the answer has been not really. The challenge this week could be communication. Alabama hasn't played in front of as many people on the road as it will today, over 100,000 folks at Neyland Stadium tonight. Ryan Fowler says it's going to be about staying focused in a hostile environment.
We just got to get everything down. From the communication standpoint, got to just know what's going on and getting the signals from the sideline and relaying it on the field. So that's the biggest thing we got to get down pat.
And here are the numbers, home versus the road, and you see it right there. Really about half the number of yards almost on the road as compared to Bryant-Denny Stadium. Points not even close. And the number of plays run, more than 13 plays more being run at home than on the road. If Alabama can get over this road hump, they certainly look like a national championship contender again. Well, much more to come here on Crimson Tide Kickoff, including a look at a special tradition surrounding this particular game, which hasn't yet gone up in smoke. Plus,
man, I hate Tennessee because, first of all, it's Tennessee.
You know him as the I Hate Tennessee guy. Irvin Carey joins us on the telephone from his home in Cincinnati. We'll see if he still feels the same way about the Big Orange. We're coming right back on CTKO, presented by Alpha Insurance. Smokey may be ready, but is his football team? How about that? Stay with us. We'll be back after this.
Man, I hate Tennessee because, first of all, it's Tennessee. And I just hate them because they low down, they dirty, they some snitches.
We see that video every year right around this time. Let's look at how life was the last time the Tide fell to the Vols. The iPhone didn't even exist. Gas was $1.91 per gallon. Sexy Back by Justin Timberlake was the top song in the country. He's from Memphis, by the way. And only 6 of the 7 Harry Potter books had been published. So it's been a while. That's what we're telling you. Well, you saw him talking about his hatred of all things orange. Now the man himself joins us on the telephone from his home in Cincinnati. Irvin Carney, thanks for being with us. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Roll Tide.
Well, that's my first question for you. Do you still hate all things orange?
You know, I still got a healthy hatred for Tennessee and Tennessee football, and I it's still pretty healthy, and I'm always good. I'm always happy when they lose and we beat them by a lot. So it's still there.
All right, let me ask you the origin of this interview. When exactly was it? How did it come about? Who was doing the interview? Tell me about the history of it.
So first off, it was completely random. This was almost 7 years ago to the day. This is 2007, right before the Tennessee game. And we had just got the buses at Alabama, the bus system, the Crimson Ride system, and I was waiting at the bus stop. And this guy was coming over. He was talking about, I'm talking about rivalry. So we ended up having a pretty long conversation waiting on the bus about, how I felt about Tennessee. And then he's like, you know what, I got to get this on camera. So then he started rolling, and then that's what everybody saw. And I didn't even know that this was going on YouTube. YouTube wasn't as big of a thing back then as it is now. And I didn't find out it was on YouTube until March. So everybody started telling me about it, and then it's just kind of gotten big and big every year around this time. But it was completely random and completely organic, too. So.
And that's what makes it so good. I mean, you can see just that it was just off the cuff. You're right, though. 7 years ago, YouTube was just really getting established. Facebook wasn't nearly as big as it is now. All the different social media outlets, there was no Twitter. So you had no idea at the time that you were going to go down in social media legend, did you?
No idea. I had completely forgotten about that. Because I didn't find out about it until about 5 months after the fact that people were, seeing it and all that. So yeah, didn't have any idea at the time. So.
Well, since your interview, Alabama has not lost to Tennessee. So.
I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to jinx it, but I was thinking that. Okay, I didn't want to jinx it. But that is true.
You just keep on hating, and maybe everything will be okay. Well, let me ask you now.
Exactly.
You're in Cincinnati. Is that your hometown? What are you doing these days?
Well, I work for a data analytics company up here. It's called Dunnhumby USA. They actually recruit very heavily at the university. So we have a good Alabama contingent where I work. So it's just good. We get to talk about Alabama football amongst each other. And, I'm just, up here working and, just surviving,
Do you get back to Tuscaloosa for any games?
Well, I come back for homecoming. I will be back down for homecoming, and I may or may not be down for the Mississippi State game. But I do make it to homecoming every year. I've been there for the past 3 or 4 years. Since I've been out, I've been coming back for homecoming.
All right, Irvin, it's been fun talking to you. All right, now I got to ask one thing before we get off the phone. The part about the snitches. That's the best part of the whole interview. Give it to me one more time.
They low down, they dirty, they some snitches, and And, like I said, the background on that is, I didn't even, I grew up kind of rooting for Auburn. I grew up in Montgomery. Then I went to Alabama, and that kind of changed my whole view. And then I kind of heard about that after I got enrolled at Alabama about what happened. And that's what kind of fueled that even more. So, yeah, but they are low down, dirty, and some snitches.
All right, Irvin, we appreciate the time, buddy, okay?
All right, then. Roll Tide.
All right, roll Tide. Well, thanks so much to Irvin Carey for joining us. Coming up on Crimson Tide Kickoff, we'll be breaking down the Tide defense. Can they continue what they started against Texas A&M last week? It was impressive. Plus, it's a tradition that dates way back in the Alabama-Tennessee series, cigars. The Tide keeping the stogie makers in business in this area lately. How Alabama and Tennessee have been willfully committing an NCAA violation for the better part of a decade. And we'll check back in with Jim Chapman, who is live in Knoxville. Stay tuned. CTKO continues after the break. It's part of the lore of the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry. Every year since 1961, the winning team has lit up a victory cigar after the game. Alabama trainer Jim Goosetree, who graduated from UT, was said to have started the tradition after the Tide beat the Vols in 1961, snapping a 6-year drought against the Big Orange. Technically, the tradition violates a secondary NCAA rule against tobacco products and extra benefits. But since 2005, the winning team continues the tradition and self-reports the violation. And if Alabama wins tonight, it will be the Tide's longest winning streak against Tennessee since an 11-game streak under Paul Bryant from 1971 to 1981. Let's head back to Knoxville now to Jen Chapman and check on what's going on there. Jen?
Well, unlike the I hate Tennessee guy, Roger Williams here does not hate Tennessee. In fact, he got here at 2 a.m. to get his spot for tailgating. Roger has been a lifelong fan of the Vols. What is your favorite memory of Alabama versus Tennessee?
My favorite memory would be 1982, number 2 Alabama rolls into Tennessee. Biggest play probably Alan Cockrell to Willie Galt. We tore the goalpost down and marched them down Cumberland Avenue. That was a big win for Tennessee.
Everyone in Tuscaloosa right now is like, really? You just went there?
Yeah. Beat Bear Bryant. Last game here in Tennessee.
Obviously, the big talk right now is Lane Kiffin making his return. It's in the political ads talking about him breaking promises and comparing him to candidates here in Tennessee. What is the sentiment?
For me personally, I thought Lane Kiffin brought a lot of energy into the fan base we hadn't had in a lot of years. He did a lot of things that were different, and I was looking for change myself. The only thing I hate was he leave in the middle of the night. We're a smart enough fan base to know he's leaving for his ultimate dream job, if you want to call it that, but it turned into a nightmare because he got fired a couple of years later.
Well, we'll have 100,000 fans welcoming him tonight. Do you have a prediction of what's going to happen?
Yeah, it's Tennessee 23, Alabama 17.
Ooh, so a close one. Well, that has been the way they've played some of their best games this year for the Vols. What have you seen as the difference in Butch Jones' team this year?
Energy. They don't quit. They do not quit. I don't care who they're playing. I go to all the games. I went last year to Oregon. We went to Oklahoma this year. They don't quit. They're 100%. They give everything they got.
Well, we'll see what kind of game we'll get tonight. Roger, you have a great time. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you.
And I will send it back to you, Gary, in the studio. This is live from Knoxville.
Thank you, Jen, so much. And give those Tennessee fans credit. I mean, they believe, and they're really pleased with the job Butch Jones is doing, even though the wins in the SEC are not coming very often. Well, early in the season, it was thought of as an Achilles heel for the Tide, but it's a strength once more. The defense pitched its second shutout of the season against a high-powered Texas A&M outfit last week, and one of the keys has been pressure on the quarterback. 6 sacks a week ago, but maybe a bigger factor has been the players not feeling the pressure to perform. Nick Saban talked about guys playing loose, and one of the leaders of the defense says that's why play has improved.
Just buying in. Everybody's finally buying in, and that we know what we have. I mean, we have the chance to be great, and that's what we're trying to be. And once we did that, and once we figured that out, and as a team figured that out, everybody bought in and now just having fun.
Here are the impressive numbers. Alabama at the top of the national rankings in total scoring and rushing defense. here's the kind of pressure they're getting on the quarterback. 12 sacks in the past 3 games, 6 of those, as we said, coming against the Aggies last week. Well, more to come on Crimson Tide Kickoff. Later, we dive into the Lane Kiffin story. How do the Vols feel about him coming back to Knoxville? You can figure it out. But next, he's a controversial figure in Alabama football history. Gene Jelks joins the show to discuss his path back to his university and what he's doing to make a difference in the lives of others. You don't want to miss this interview. Stay with us. CTKO, live from Tuscaloosa and Knoxville. We'll be back right after this.
It's game day in Tuscaloosa, and at Mary's Cakes and Pastries, they're whipping up and dishing out some unique sweet treats. This is Game Day Eve. Mary's Bakery is snuggled in downtown Northport, 10 minutes from Alabama's campus. During football season, they bake and decorate cookies, cakes, and cupcakes in perfect game day fashion.
We started making Alabama-themed cookies pretty much the first year that we were here. It started out with just footballs, and we did red footballs with white A's and white footballs with red A's. And then, you know, we started making elephants, and then we got an elephant head cutter, and then we've had some cookie cutters made for us.
Among those new cookie cutters are Bear Bryant's houndstooth hat, Nick Saban's straw hat, and the national championship crystal ball. When I asked how many cookies they make in a game day week, the answer was
hundreds. Thousands, at least.
Decorating the cookies and cupcakes takes a great deal of time and care, and Mary let me try it out. This is so awesome. She taught me how to fill and ice an Alabama cupcake, cover it with sprinkles, and draw the script A. Game day wouldn't be the same for some folks without these Bama cookies.
We'll get people that'll come in every week, and they'll freak out if they're not here early enough to get their cookies because they're totally convinced that Alabama wins, you know, when they have Mary's cookies.
Baking and selling these goodies is much easier thanks to Alabama's winning tradition.
It would be an entirely different story if Alabama weren't Alabama. We would just be another bakery making another cookie, but it's really fun to be part of, you know, such a cool winning, you know, Roll Tide.
While my script date was not as good as the decorators here, the results are still delicious. For Game Day Eats, I'm Hannah Mills.
Thank you, Hannah. And joining me now is former Crimson Tide standout at running back and later defensive back. We'll get into that in a moment. That wasn't the happiest time for you as a DB. Gene Jelks joining us.
Thank you. Praise God. Thank you for having me,
Good
Gary.
to have you. Now, let me show everybody something now. You, B.J. Milliken, when he booked you for this interview, you said, yeah, B.J., I'd love to do it, but I got one request.
Right.
When I come back down to Tuscaloosa, can you get me some Dreamland ribs?
And there it is.
And we got
touchdown.
Hey, we do what we say what we do, and we do what we say.
Yes, you do, Gary.
But we got to get to those in a moment.
Okay.
We're going to have to wait on those. First,
Thank you.
Let's get into some stuff. I mean, certainly your career as a player, you were outstanding. A lot of stuff happened since then. Let's just start out with Gene Jelks right now, today. What are you up to?
Oh, I'm a Christian speaker now, and all glory go to God. I'm also doing Christian football camps throughout the Southeast for kids ages 7 to 13. And also I've been speaking, keynote speakers in a lot of churches to give people hope. I went from fame to shame, out of the woods, back into the kingdom of God.
Wow.
And I come from a Christian family,
Yeah.
so
You had it in your
it's
background.
all God.
Well, speaking of background, a little background for the folks. I started my TV career at WHMA Channel 40 in Anniston, Alabama when
That's
you were
right.
at Emma Sansom
That's
High School,
right.
so we go way back.
That's right. And I followed Gary, guys, in high school, and here I am 20 years later. It's nothing but God.
Yeah, I followed you and
Thank
Larry
you.
Rose and Freddie Wagan, who went down to Auburn. All right, let's start with your football career. At Emma Sansom, you were highly decorated, recruited by schools all over the country, chose to come to Alabama along with Bobby Humphrey and Murray Hill, kind of a triple threat at running back. Career got off to a great start. 1985, as a freshman, your long run against Auburn helped lead the Tide to 23-22 victory. Of course, Van Tiffen played a big part in that as well.
Absolutely,
But your career was off and running. You and Humphrey both getting accolades. Then Coach Perkins, who recruited you, signed you, left for the NFL, Tampa Bay.
Yes.
Bill Curry came in, and that's where things kind of changed a little bit for you. Pick up the story from there.
Yes, it was disappointing. My aspiration was to be the first Heisman. Of course, Ingram is the Heisman trophy, and we thank him for doing that in the Bama Nation. And that was the goal coming out of high school, to be the first Heisman trophy. And then the transition, as you said, Coach Perkins went to the pros. Bill Curry I want the Bama Nation to know that Bill Curry called me in the office and told me that he was going to force me to move to DB. And I said, Coach, I'm the leading rusher. And the true story will come out in the book, but we'll get into that. And it emotionally wise, it hurt me because my admiration and desire was to be the first Heisman. And I was on track, as you guys knew. And then he moved me to defensive back. I've never played in the SEC, which is tough.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting the Atlanta Touchdown Club defensive back of the year. But it was not the same. And I was miserable. But I had a good friend, John Mangum, of course, as you know, played the left corner. And Lee Osmond, those guys helped me get through it, and Derek Thomas. It was tough.
Yeah, you did excel at the position, even though you didn't want to play it.
Correct.
And you had some opportunities in pro football.
Yes,
but
sir.
let's talk about what happened, Gene. You hung on to that bitterness.
I did.
It manifested itself in a very ugly way.
Amen.
You were approached, and you wound up, as some would characterize it, betraying your university.
Exactly.
How did all that happen?
Well, it was a mistake. I was 21 years old. It was a mistake. Now, I was approached by the Auburn people, and like you said, that demon came up. And the Bama Nation, I want you to know, it was toward Bill Curry. It was not toward the Bama Nation or the university or the people in my state where I love. And I'm just glad to be back after 20 years. The book is going to reveal the truth. It's not smashing anybody, but I have met with Bill Curry, and he got closure. He said he made a mistake in Atlanta, and I started crying. It caused me to become homeless for 4 years on the streets, and it shouldn't have never happened that way, but it did. And so that's exactly what happened, and I became bitter, and I admit my mistake. God said, who is without sin cast the first stone. And I found the courage to come back, and now it's just beautiful to be able to be a servant in the state of Alabama for our kids. And yeah, it was a mistake that I made, and I want the Bama Nation to know that I made a mistake, and I apologize to myself, the Brotherhood, the University of Alabama, and the state, and everybody that showed me love. And also, I have forgiven Bill Curry, but I haven't forgot.
All right, and to bring people up to speed that may not know, it was Gene's allegations against the university that led to Alabama going on probation for the first time in its history. But you talk about redemption, and you mentioned your book. Tell us about the book, the title, when it comes out, and already you've said a little bit about it, but it kind of is a story from being on the streets, literally homeless, to where you're at now. Tell us about the book.
Amen. Well, all the glory belongs to God. The book is about redemption, as you said. It's about restoration. It clears up the past. Coming out the woods from homelessness, how I did it, rehabilitation, transitioning through not a halfway house but a church, and not only that, the book is about other players, the target list that has their opinion about me, and it also talks about me being homeless and how God raised me back above ground.
So Above Ground is the title of the book. It's available when?
It'll come out National Signing Day, February the 4th.
How about that? Get it. And as you sit here today, back on this campus.
Amen. Thank God.
And you talk about people reaching out to you. Do you feel comfortable here now? Do you feel like it's come full circle?
It has. All things is in God time, and people back in my state ain't showing me nothing but love. Facebook, just in public, and this is where I'm supposed to be. God told me to come back home. Even when the tornado relief victim, I came down and helped. Right. I didn't want no accolades. And the article said silent salvation, so that was confirmation. And I'm about to cry. I'm just glad to be back
home. So you say you don't have any bitterness. Do you feel like some people still have bitterness towards you? Do you think most people let that go?
For the most part, everybody has let it go. I just asked the A Club to open their hearts. They've made mistakes. And it was not my intentions. My intentions was to get back at Bill Curry. And my anger got the best of me, and I'm not proud of that, but that's what happened. And it's been great. They support the Christian football camps I do throughout the Southeast for kids, and Christian speaker, and sharing their testimony, the uncut version. Yes, I'm roll tide, and I'm glad to be back home.
Well, it's good to have you back, Gene.
Thank
good
you,
to see
Gary.
you again, man.
God
It's been a
bless
long
you.
time.
Thank you.
Above Ground
Thank
is the book, available February 4th of next year. It's Gene Jelks' life
Thank you.
story, and he's got a lot to say. So
Thank you.
I'd encourage you to pick up that book when it comes out. Thank you, Gene.
Thanks, Gary.
We've
Thanks
still
for
got
having
more to come here on CTKO, including a final look at weather coming up in just a bit. But next, Blake Sims is in the player spotlight this week, how he's transformed himself from an athlete playing quarterback to a dangerous dual threat that can get it done both with his arm and his legs. And it's dominated the headlines in Knoxville. Lane Kiffin's return to Neyland Stadium. Hear from the Vols head coach Butch Jones and Blake Sims. Stick around. CTKO continues right after this timeout. We're back, and we're not the only ones. Lane Kiffin returning to Knoxville 5 years after he left the Tennessee football program for Southern California. This week his mother has come out and said she fears for his safety, but Butch Jones doesn't really think it's a big deal, at least for the Vols football team.
Well, the game means everything to our football program and our fans because it's the University of Alabama, not because it's Lane Kiffin. 3/4 of our team, he's a great coach, but nobody knows who Lane Kiffin is.
A big game for him, and we want to go out and just try to do our best, but we're not going to try to overdo it. We're going to try to take one play at a time.
And how's life been for the Vols since they had life in the fast lane? Well, it hasn't been very good. His only year in Knoxville, he had a winning record. Since then, they have not managed another winning record. You see the numbers down in total offense, down in points per game. So they may not like him, but a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that they wish he was still their head coach. Well, Lane did it with Jonathan Crompton at quarterback at Tennessee. Now he's taking on another quarterback project that not a lot of people believe that they could have success with. But Blake Sims is getting it done. Andrew Clare has more on Sims in this week's Player Spotlight.
After waiting around and paying his dues, fifth-year quarterback Blake Sims has made the most of his opportunity and has become the leader of the offense.
If there's any way that I can help the team be successful, if that's for me playing center, I mean, I'll do that. I mean, even just being energized with the teammates.
In his first season as the starting Alabama signal caller, Sims has thrown for 1,700 yards and 13 touchdown passes with just 3 interceptions. But he has struggled on the road this season and says being able to communicate is key when in hostile environments like Neyland Stadium.
Learning our signals better and just communicating, because we love talking to each other, but we got to take it to the field and try to be more vocal with each other. So that's the main thing that we're going to try to do this week as we in practice and try to be more vocal.
This will be Lane Kiffin's first trip back to Knoxville after being the Tennessee head coach in 2009. Sims says the team understands the importance this game has for Kiffin and wants to perform his best for his offensive coordinator.
This is probably a big game for him, and we want to go out and just try to do our best, but we're not going to try to overdo it. We're going to try to take one play at a time, and if it's a good play or a bad play, we just say, hey, that's the last play, let's move on to the next one.
This is Sims' first start in this great rivalry, and he hopes to continue to make strides toward greatness. For Crimson Tide Kickoff, I'm Andrew Clare.
Thank you, Andrew. We're coming back on CTKO with a final look at our forecast, how to plan your tailgate, what's it going to look like tonight in Knoxville, and Scott on the Street is up next as well. Stay with us. CTKO rolls on after the break.
Man, I hate Tennessee because, first of all, it's Tennessee. And
whoa, sorry. Sorry, I was kind of distracted there. Welcome into Scott on the Street. It's Tennessee Hate Week. I was just watching a hilarious video. There was a video a couple years ago, it kind of viral. Guy's telling why he hates Tennessee. He doesn't leave anything off limits. Pretty funny video. Take a listen real quick.
I really don't like Tennessee, man. I can't stress that enough, man. And they losers, they sore losers because they're not Alabama, and I hate Tennessee, man.
As you can see, that guy's very clear. He does not like the Tennessee Volunteers. We're going to campus. We're going to see if anybody can top that. It's doubtful, but I'll keep my fingers crossed. Scott on the Street starts right now.
Josh, it's Tennessee week. I gotta tell you, a lot of people don't like Tennessee. Why do you not like Tennessee?
Well, I hate Tennessee. Being from Memphis, Tennessee, I'm on the other side of the state, and Knoxville I hate them. They suck. I hate the orange. I hate everything about it. I couldn't agree more with the guy that said They low down, they dirty, they some snitches, they do all the wrong things. They come into Memphis and they mess up our city. You know what? It's time for Alabama to go into Knoxville and mess up their city.
Well, their colors are orange to begin with, and like Auburn's colors are orange. I don't think that's a coincidence because they both suck. No one really eats oranges. Like, that's citrus. It's not a popular citrus. Orange is not the new black. They just suck.
You don't really like Tennessee, but more importantly, their colors. Tell us what that does for you.
I would say that I have the same perspective on the color as Sandra Bullock did in The Blind Side. She says orange is not on her color wheel, and I would say that is not on my color wheel either.
Okay, all right. Now, Kate, what do you think about Tennessee? Good, bad feelings?
I'm actually from there, and that's why I left.
The song Rocky Top, like, dislike, what do you think? What's your thoughts on that song?
Hey, Rocky Top. Only song I sing on game days is Sweet Home Alabama.
All right, so as you can see, no love for Rocky Top, so we'll leave you with some Rocky.
Great stuff, Scott. Real quick final forecast check with Peter Craig.
That's right. We're looking at lots of sunshine for the day today. Clear skies tonight. Temperatures starting off in the 60s, dropping off into the mid-50s by the end of the game tonight.
Thank you, Peter. That's all we got time for. A reminder that B.J. Milliken will be in tonight following the news at 10 with Sports Saturday. We'll have the Nick Saban press conference following the game for you live as well. Thanks for watching CTKO. Have a great weekend. Roll Tide, everybody.